Donc, bonjour tout le monde. J'imagine que j'ai pas entendu Yacine, mais j'imagine qu'il a présenté un peu la société et qui m'a présenté, donc je vais pas recommencer. Yeah, sorry, to switch in English. Thank you. I guess Yacine introduced the company and myself, so I'm not going to redo this. I'm going to dive right into our project. So what we are Urbanoid. We're based both in Montreal, Canada, and in Geneva, Switzerland. We have multiple projects for a very young and small company. But today I'm going to mainly speak to you about our open platform that was the origin of the project, which we call it the x-ode platform, which is for the idea of which the idea was to use the readily existing environment. I'm trying to share this with you. So basically, to share our idea was we made the choice to use the existing environment as a backdrop to augment its experience with technology. The use of technology, mobile device, wearables, IoTs, as a tool for users to experience a readily immersive existing environment populated with actors to be connected and to connect with, rather than recreating immersive environments like video games or VR. So basically, I come from a background of movie making, and towards the end of my career as a film producer, I realized that we spent a lot of time in studios, in basically post-production studios, trying to recreating wind through the leaves, waves, whatever special effect. And we had farms of hundreds of developers recreating this environment. And I decided to bet to use the real world, and to, instead of recreating it through immersive technologies, and to use technology as tools, basically to augment the connection between users. So basically, obviously, we were using the most obvious tool was the cell phone, was the smartphone with all its capabilities, but also, as I mentioned, wearables, IoTs. To basically try to make this our world, our connected world, entertaining, and also trying to get anonymous passersby to connect with one another. Another important aspect was the aspect of instead of basing our platform and our apps on self-generated user profiles, we thought that events would have to be the base. So therefore, not only the notion of space became important, but the notion of time, obviously, because an event, whether it happened 5 minutes ago out on the street corner, or if it happened 20 years ago, this notion was something that was the base, basically, of this urban rendezvous in mixed reality. So we started by creating a very simple web application called x-ode, where anonymous users would post a message at specific space-time coordinate, hoping that another user, random or targeted, would navigate to these same coordinates, and that based on the content of the message related to an event that would have happened at these coordinates, an encounter, as I mentioned, or a misconnection of any type, would feel the need to reconnect. This was interesting and led to hundreds of random posts, mostly relating to events that happened years before, and where people wanted to reconnect with people that they could not track down on mainstream social media platform because they did not know their names or for whatever reasons. So basically, something that would have happened the most, and I'll show you some examples, something that would have happened 30 years ago, and someone would have, I mean, the most obvious example was two people that saw each other at a specific place at a specific time and wanted to share something, wanted to continue the conversation and didn't know how to reach out to this person. So we try to find a way to get people to be able to go back in time and relive this moment and hopefully continue this moment. So this was very interesting experience, but it did not make much sense for mobile users who yearned for a more instantaneous experience. So we're now developing a mobile app based on the same principle of misconnection, but with the added feature of proximity detection and AR messaging. So I'm going to show you this app. Basically, that's the one we had developed initially, and which is x-ode.org. So basically, we have a map where posts are, and I mean, those are, there's many more posts. If you get into it, they become, if you go to, for example, Montreal, you'll see that, they start to pop up as we get into, and we could see the titles of these posts, and one feature that we wanted to develop was the time factor. So basically, as the time glider slides, you can see posts popping up and popping out because you can filter through time those different posts. So basically, those are all posts, where people, could, relate their experiences. So, we have them in Montreal, we have them on the West Coast. Maybe I'll go to one here, in red, in Los Angeles. YT. So here we go. So basically, most of them became very poetic type of exchanges, but that's basically what it was. So this was a fun experience. We still have the website on, and we still get like occasional posts on. But basically, we knew that this was a proof of concept, and that the real usage would come through basically mobile apps. So we went and we developed the x-ode app, and the x-ode app has three main views or scene. One is a live view through which a user can scan their environment and the surrounding in AR for existing objects, posts or users' proximity markers, as well as to leave geolocated time-framed messages. So basically, this is an AR view, much like Pokemon Go, except it's in real AR. And we are basically our users are at a specific location, and if it's a location where they can scan the environment and see whether there or not there's a marker around. I'll show you an example after. And if there's a marker around, they could engage with this conversation. And then when they go to the next view, which is the map view, then they could see a map of the city with all the existing message in the city or around the world. But in this use case, it's very much more dedicated to a precise event in space and time, and much more instantaneous. So basically, we're limiting it to the city, and and on the map they can consult these maps, these messages, but they can only engage or post at the location in the specific environment. So basically, this brings the person to go to the actual location to engage in a conversation or to initiate a conversation with another anonymous users that will then be able to see this specific post and engage with it. And then we added this view, which is the orbit view, through which users see the other users around them, and we have multiple factors enabling us this notion of proximity. So basically, whether you have interacted with this user by messaging, if you have interacted with this users by crossing path with this users, or if you are very close to this user at this specific time, so that the users will be closer and closer within the basically orbit, and I'll show you after when the orbit view of the app. Before I go to the app, I'll show you another. So our main challenges for this are basically, for this app, are background use restrictions on iOS and Android. Basically, without it, the notion of proximity detection is hard to achieve, and with privacy concerns and battery consumption, both Android and iOS are limiting the app, basically the apps to work in background. Therefore, it's difficult for us to work around it and be able to basically, with the permission of the user, gather data of their basically whereabouts, so that we could connect with crossing path with other users. We're based now on a GPS technology. We had tried a technology that was closer to what was used for the COVID apps, basically of Bluetooth low energy BLE to make these matches. The only problem with this is we could make matches between users, but it was difficult. It was impossible to make matches between users and objects. So the GPS enables us to not only connect users with each other, but enables us to connect users with objects there. Basically, if a user passes by a location where there's a message, well, this will we'll get a marker for that, and it'll increase the probability of two users connecting. The other big challenge is the precise localization and stability of objects placed in AR. We're actually, as maybe Yacine mentioned, we're working with Yacine and Stéphane at EPIA and with EPFL, the Polytechnic at Lausanne, to address the notion of surface detection and camera pose, to have, to enable our objects. Basically, in our case, there are markers that mark that, there's a message here for you with a title, and for it to stay at the right location when another user pass by, or when you restart your app. And eventually, what we're doing with API and PFL is that these objects will be basically sponsored objects and will remain at a very specific surface. And this is a big challenge, not only for us, but for everybody, obviously, developing AR. As we are building a platform and not only a specific app, we decided to launch a second use case named Urban Orbiter, which is a universal app based on points of interest and historical character. I'll also show you an example. So in this app, basically POIs, points of interest, are localized Wikipedia articles, and they pop up throughout the user's journey. So basically, a user walks around the city and walks by points of interest, which are basically based on articles, Wikipedia articles about either events or locations, or buildings, parks, whatever it is, and street corners, and based on this, the user can engage with this point of interest, and historical characters are the historical figures that are hyperlinked in this article, within these articles, and for which we're developing conversational agents which are trained to harvest their knowledge from Wikipedia and engage in a conversation with the user. And the conversation for now is a text-based conversation, but our goal is obviously to have a kind of to accompany the user through their journey through a voice-to-text and text-to-voice technology. And where we're at now is we were able to develop this technology basically to position obviously the point of interest, and to position the related historical figures within the city to engage in a very, very simple conversation. And we're developing here at Concordia University in Montreal a conversational, basically with personalized conversational agent project, which is we're basically training the bots to harvest Wikipedia and to engage in very pertinent conversations based on these specific on this specific knowledge. For now, the bots that we have that I'll show you in the article are trained on Reddit, so it's kind of it gives us tricky conversations when we engage with these bots because they have not the kind of language that we would expect from a historical character, but that's a very long journey for us to achieve pertinent conversational bots, and that's what we're doing. And we expect that in about 16 months we'll have a first version of these bots, which will be really based on Wikipedia. So I'll go and show you maybe those two apps. So basically here we have the Urban Orbiter. I'll make it big here so you can see it, and I'll start it. I'll speak while it's running. So basically, there it is. So there's this one. This is the second thing. So basically, here are the POIs. The user is walking. I made it accelerated here. This is around McGill University in Montreal. So basically, the users then switch to a compass view where the user could see all the different POIs around with different categories of POIs. Then they could go back to the map and then see, okay, which is, by clicking on the POI, they could go and see what's the Wikipedia article. So in this case, it's a building. Well, there's obviously not much interest in this building. There's not many conversational agents or bots related to it that could be of interest. But still, you could go there and switch back to the compass view. And then we're going to flip this compass view and then make it like, and this is all prototype, basically, and make it a what we call the constellation view, where from these POIs, well, you can switch to AR here, but you see all these bots that are on top of it are basically all characters that are related to these POIs. So basically there was no one to engage in here, so we decided to check another one. FACE is an alternative school in Montreal, so we thought it was not far. Okay, we look at it. There's here notable alumni. So basically, okay, who's there? Kamala Harris, US Vice President, went to school there. So we decide to walk there. We mark it, and then we go back to the compass view, which basically we're trying to gamify this compass view. So we've accelerated it. So the user would be walking towards the location, and we're trying to generate a notion of discoverability and we're gamifying this experience. So the user is walking towards and switching from basically and then engaging here and with Kamala Harris. This is a chat bot. basically, I had already engaged in the conversation for the test. Hey, Cam. I did speak to you before. I guess that's what it says. And as you see, the conversations are very shallow for now, and the bots are a little not very well and not enlightened. But the idea that they're placed at the right position and that they know who they are is already an achievement for this first iteration. So we go back there, maybe we'll get a better chance here. Rufus Wainwright is a fairly famous song singer, and there we go. So we could try another conversation. So basically this works well, and within a couple of years or we should have, you know, these, or 16 months, we should have these bots working well. We could, you know, have this app basically functional and hopefully deployable. So here we go for this app. I'll jump now to the other app, which is the x-ode app. There we go. And so this is very preliminary. So, and then again, you again have the time glider at the bottom to filter time. You can consult the map and see who's there. Then you switch to AR and you scan for messages. As you see, the messages, the marker, they're floating in the environment. We're working on trying to get them to be better located and at a more fixed, or basically sticking to a surface. So there you go, you see the heading, I saw you here, so it's a misencounter. And then the message box triggers, nice, I'll be back tomorrow. So basically this is to trigger a meeting. And here is how to post a message. So basically it could be related to an object, or it could be related to something else. And here or to an encounter, a hole in the street. You could mark, you know, by default it's an hour around the time of posting, but it could be in the past or anything. So here you see this message that was posted. You see it back on the street. Again, it's not, you know, you see it moved from the hole where it was, but it's in the same vicinity. So basically, people can then, you know, engage in fun conversation about a location or about anything. And here is what I meant before. It's basically the orbit view. Here you only have one user because we just restarted the system, and normally you could have many users there, and you see in this orbit, basically this is the user that interacted with the self, which is the red user, and we could basically see how close they are within our community. And then when you click to the post, because it brings you back to the message. And because you have already interacted at the real location, at the actual location, then you could also interact on the map. So basically that's it. Those were our work in progress, and here we are. So I don't know if you had any question. I hope you got some of what we are doing, and if there are any questions, I'll be glad to reply. But I understand that there's a communication lag, so I'll be here and expecting questions. Thank you.
Okay, I know he is not hearing me, but thank you, Pascal. And I'm sorry, we have some problem of communication, so I will use another application to discuss with Pascal. So we still be able to take questions, and I will
I'm gonna try to go yes since whereby. I don't know please write to me the yes since whereby. What's the extension on yes since whereby, and I could go there for the questions. I need the whereby.com / I can't remember what's the, was it Yasin?
Yasin Rakik, tu lui dis. Slash Yasin Rakik. Slash. En un seul mot. Yasin Rakik. Voilà, c'est ça. Sorry for that again. So if you have questions, don't forget them. Take notes.
Just in case, I'm on Yasin, I'm on whereby.com / Yasin, but I don't remember if that's the right extension or not. So I'm waiting for a reply. If it's something else, please post it on the Yasin record. Thank you.
Anyone have a question? No questions? Okay, so we don't need the connection. No, I have one or two questions if you don't have. Okay. Nice. You said it's okay, j'ai oublié.
1 2 1 2.
J'ai oublié de l'accepter. Tu lui dis de refaire. Ah, quel con.
Wait, so I'm on Yasin Rekik's whereby, and I can only see myself. Waiting for the host to arrive.
Oui, on va poser les questions par chat. Oui, voilà, c'est mieux. Tu lui dis qu'on va poser les questions par chat. Désolé. Who has a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. Just one question. At the moment, we have not so many messages, so it stays observable. How do you think it will be if everyone would use it and place messages everywhere and we get a mess, or in the other hand, inappropriate messages?
So two questions. The first one is if we have a lot of messages, how to find ourselves, and the second, how to moderate all that. Is it a good translation? Okay.
Pokemon Go people take over.
Yeah.
Well, for both, I mean, I guess we're talking for the messages. You're asking me how do you think this will evaluate, and if we have a lot of message. So basically, we are interested in developing a platform. When we're interested in developing a platform where other apps could join, not necessarily only our app, but any other app, an open platform. But for our specific apps, and in this case for the messaging app, basically the x-ode app, the idea is to create a dynamic environment where people can connect without knowing one another. So, and this is a missing aspect in today's existing environment of apps, is that everything's based on posting, TikTok-like posts where people share images amongst themselves, and this is one use case, or most closer to what we do. People basically create a profile and show what they are, and then people flip left or swipe left or right to see if they're interested in talking to them. What we are expecting to generate is to bring back the notion of what happens in the outside world, and to try to enhance this by getting the chance for people to connect. So how it will evaluate, how it will evolve, I don't know. We will see how it happens. No, the messages we will not be moderated. They will be moderated by basically AI. We're working on this to basically make sure there's no offensive language. We're also filtering the use of personal names. So we're using Wikipedia basically for this. So even as in the x-ode app, we're trying to filter personal names. The only names that could appear on are names that already have a Wikipedia articles, because they would be considered known persons. Obviously, this is not foolproof, but this is one way to alleviate bullying, because we're working with a university here, and it's a very big concern for you students. And we're working on different ways to try to moderate, but without us to have to police it manually, but to set boundaries through our AI. Yeah, we're assembling a lot of technologies. I think, yes, whether or not they're ready, I think they will be ready. For example, AR, since Pokemon Go, which actually is not real AR, but it's still using the notion of AR, not that many apps have been doing so well with AR. And we believe, I mean, obviously, because the idea of walking around with your phone in front of you to discover things is not easy. But basically, we're betting on wearables. So we're betting on glasses, on AR glasses, and they're not going to be ready in 2022, not in 2023. Maybe a first iteration of functional light glasses connected to the phone will appear in 2024, but the market should start to be ready in 2025, and that's why we're developing our apps for this market. And we're actually working in collaboration with Qualcomm, which is basically the maker of the Snapdragon chip that connects the wearable to the phone. So it's basically wearable, the phone as the edge, and the edge with 5Gs to the network. And the technology might be much more pertinent in terms of seeing what's around you and experiencing the real world with glasses. And the glasses have to be non-obstructive like HoloLens, but a much lighter glass that you could either flip on or off. And basically our idea is to, when you turn them off, you're not connected. And when you turn them on, basically there you have, your augmented world. For AI, if it's easy or not to assemble, yeah, I think AI is in everything. So basically, and we are working with it. We're not afraid of it, and we're very happy with the early results, basically of mainly our chatbots in terms of AI. I mean, there's different forms of AI, but in our case, it's basically the chatbots based on open knowledge, and this is very important for the other app, basically the Urban Orbiter app. We're using AI to harvest through Wikipedia, and it's basically becoming another way to experience Wikipedia while you're walking around the city. So instead of having to read an article when you're at a location, so basically the AI would harvest the data and the knowledge and transfer this knowledge to the user by conversing with the user and explaining talking about themselves or talking about the surrounding environment and guiding them to other location in the vicinity or to introducing them to other historical characters so the conversation continues. So basically, we're using AI to enhance and to basically move the user away from the screen and try to get them in a conversation where basically they could still walk around the city and experience life by just having an enhanced experience.
My questions for Pascal was, there is a lot of technology in his solutions, artificial intelligence, proximity,
So I know
AR, etc. So I asked him if we are ready for that or not, and this was his answer.
If there's one more question, but otherwise I know that the session will stop. So thank you. So yes, that's it. So well, thank you very much for attending, and I will basically. Hopefully you'll hear from us from one of our projects, whether it's one of our apps that will probably change name, one of the x-ode app or the Urban Orbiter, which is the Wikipedia based app, or a platform, or any other project that we're doing with Yassine and Stéphane at EPIA concerning placement of sponsored object in mixed reality. So basically, we're Urbanoid, and hopefully you'll hear from us at one point in the near future. So thank you very much to everyone at GSGS'22. Thank you, Yassine, for inviting me, and hope you have a nice day and a nice weekend. Thank you very much.